One finds presence that does not yell, does not compel, does not impose. It just exists and is sensed by everyone in vicinity. The man under retention bears this presence. He is seen as distinctive even in quiet. Something in your posture, in your walking, in your appearance, garners respect and draws attention. The essential energy this impact bears inside itself, conserved, enhanced, sanctified, not from the physical force or the exhibition. He has no need of defending himself, proving anything, or competing. His effort is done by his vitality. Men in retention carry a kind of power not taught in classrooms or modeled from elsewhere. Time seems to slow down for a period when they enter an environment, as if the air surrounding them were heavier. This unconscious belief that others are born of the inner potential, not wasted. When accumulated and refined, sexual energy spills to the senses and shapes an unseen field of influence and respect. Though mostly, the language of the body shifts what is behind the body, the goal, the presence, the soul. There is nothing of violence in this kind of arena. There is no need to exhibit the fists or occupy space or raise the voice. Man who overflows vital energy has silent but completely real power. People revere him for the intensity he radiates rather than for the anxiety he generates. Your appearance crosses, but not evaluates. Although your posture does not confront, it sets limitations. Its vital vitality is concentrated rather than diluted by too stimulating activities, joys, or distractions. And the environment feels when this energy concentrates. Formulas cannot help to explain this magnetism. He neither sells himself with ready-made statements nor wears branded clothing. It is something that defies the general wisdom. A retainer has a true magnetic field. Its aura opens out and its energy vibrates at another frequency. Something about you draws the subtle and detests the vulgar. He doesn't have to guard himself. They already wait before attempting to breach. There is no need to force myself as its straightforward existence already takes up the space. It seems to have a kind of invisible shield composed of self-control, intention, and concentration. Spiritual regard and charm have quite different meanings. One can learn to be charismatic. One can manipulate, conquer, entertain using it. Already, another difference is the respect resulting from spiritual vibration. Renounced, disciplined, suffering, and silent, he is conquered. It is about being acknowledged, even by those who do not know how to articulate why. It is not about being liked. Whereas charm appeals, pure spiritual force instills respect. And this respect results from a truth. You have developed into a man who does not sell himself, does not divert himself, does not give up to the system. You are uncommon since you have chosen to stay where everyone else disappears. Semen is not only a physical fluid. It is a concentrate of life, of force, of spiritual essence. When a man decides not to let his seed flow, he is truly maintaining his maximum vibrational frequency rather than only forgoing transient pleasure. Seminal retention is an interior alchemy transforming man's identity, not only a physical technique. His mind leaps, his spirit sharpens, his body becomes silently magnetic. The spiritual body starts to emanate something once scattered. He ceases just living and starts to resonate. This changes in microdatelets rather than explosively. The individual who watches himself through minute changes to the environment, but is strong in his internal structure. The eyes get fresh brightness, not seduction, but clarity. The appearance seems to be devoid of need for diversion or approval seeking. The skin seems more alive and exhibits most aware motions. The discipline once imposed becomes normal. The face rejects a continuous attention. The body, even in rest, bears a holy tension like to that of a wakeful warrior. This is of willingness, not of rigidity. A man who rules his impulses has strength in his eyes. A firmness that shows itself with presence rather than being explained with words. The lack of dread results from inner assurance that it is in line with something bigger, not from ignorance of the threats. Constant retention transforms the soul to become solidity. Everybody feels as though man peered into the world and stated, without opening his mouth, "I know who I am." His silence turns becomes a statement. He is just. No need to scream or persuade him. Something very delicate occurs when this essential force rises. Spiritual attacks lose power. The darts that used to strike readily now have no means of settling. Not only is the guy in retention and discipline, but he also rises above the frequency where the attacks work, so developing an invisible kind of barrier. He no longer vibrates in emotional lack, uncontrollably, strong need, terror. And so the forces feeding on these breaches start to become frustrating. It gets less easily reachable to the spirit world's traps. The body of man in retention is not only an enhanced physical one, it becomes a temple. And the temple is kept, protected, silent. This is not perfection, but a presence. It is not about performance, but about essence. And when this essence is preserved, the spirit gains form, authority, and direction. Man begins to live as who was consecrated to something greater, not by religion, but by energy. He recognizes himself as a temple, and therefore no one else can treat him as an object. There is a loneliness that is not rejection, but distinction. The man who keeps his energy began to carry something so rare that naturally he moves away from the ordinary. It is the loneliness of those who were separated not by human choice, but by louder alignment. When the frequency rises, many move away, not for evil, but because they can no longer inhabit the same field. It is isolation that precedes the rise. And while the soul feels this cut, it recognizes being alone at this level is a sign that something sacred is being preserved. This loneliness does not shout, does not complain, does not victimize. She silences, a dense, almost mystical silence. The silence of those who no longer need to prove anything. The silence of those who have already looked into the eyes of vulgar desire and said, "I am no longer your slave." The man in retention does not only transcend the vice of the flesh, he transcends the noise. He no longer needs false validations, cheap distractions, urgent pleasures. He begins to breathe in another rhythm, think of another layer, live in another altitude. And there, where the air is thinner, the silence becomes armor. This kind of alignment creates a magnetism that is not learned, it is revealed. The same magnetism that is seen in the great spiritual masters, not for status, fame, or decorated wisdom, but frequency. The body is just the wisdom. The energy that is carried is what imposes reverence. When a man breaks free from the system of pleasure and rises above dependence, he begins to radiate this vibration. He starts walking among people as who carries a mission. It is not a matter of looking sacred, it is about living as sacred, and that is meaning. Previously, common environments become unbearable. Banal conversations look like aggression. Vulgar songs bother their ears as toxic noise. Something within man changes definitively. It is not judgment, it is discernment. The man who keeps himself no longer feels like diving where he once drowned his desires. Now it is avoided in these places, feared even, because its simple presence denounces the imbalance of others. He doesn't have to say he has changed. His energy already says he no longer has to fight to get out of the impure environments. He no longer fits them. Being untouchable is not if you find it superior. It is recognizing that its frequency requires another kind of way. And this path is lonely, deep, and full of silence. But it is precisely this silence that screams in the spirit world. He shows that a man chose to rise and stay high. And when this choice remains, day after day, even in pain, even in temptations, the universe begins to open paths that were sealed to those who are still attached to the cycle. Because the man who takes care of his energy with honor does not live to please the world. He lives to fulfill a call. When a man keeps himself, the world realizes even before he speaks. Women feel, men notice, and the spiritual plane responds clearly. It is as if something invisible began to vibrate around it, a field that conveys authority, purity, and presence. Women are naturally attracted to this force, not by aesthetics or the game of conquest, but for a deep instinct that recognizes security and direction. Men, in turn, feel silent discomfort, the kind of discomfort that is born before someone who has become a master of himself. Have you ever felt like there's something powerful inside you, but you just haven't fully unlocked it yet? My new book, Alchemy of the Gods, was created for men like you. Those who know there's a higher purpose to life, but haven't yet found the keys to activate their inner force. In this powerful and transformational work, I, Laert, founder of Gods of Semen, reveal the spiritual secrets behind Kundalini, crystalline oil, and true spiritual liberation. This is not just another theory, it's a map, a guide to rebuild your identity, raise your vibration, and ignite the divine purpose buried within your soul. And the best part, it's available in physical, digital, and audiobook format, so you can access this wisdom anytime, anywhere. Click the link in the description or pinned comment and get your copy now. You don't have to keep living disconnected. You were born to awaken. But before anything else, here's something you didn't expect. The brand new audiobook, Semen Retention Success Path, is out now. Featuring over 2 hours of exclusive content on the 6 core principles of semen retention. If you're feeling low on energy, lacking clarity or motivation, if you're stuck in cycles of distraction, addiction, and emotional emptiness, this audiobook is your key to restore your vital power, clear your mind, and step into your personal evolution. Listen anywhere, transform everywhere. And there's a powerful bonus. When you purchase the audiobook, you'll receive 30% off the companion ebook, The Art of Semen Retention for Men, packed with 20 pages of advanced techniques for spiritual growth, emotional balance, and life purpose activation. Just click the link in the description to unlock both now. This discomfort increases because its simple existence begins to bother. You are not trying to prove anything. It's not showing off. It is not disputing space. But the fact that you don't need these things is already an affront to those who live on validation. Your presence becomes a mirror. And mirrors, when they show truths, are often hated. People cannot explain what they feel around them. Some will admire you. Others will want to move away. And some will tease you, because your energy reveals the weakness of others without saying a word. The energy that would previously be praised begins to be distorted. What once generated applause now arouses envy. The looks that sought connection become challenges. What was curiosity becomes resistance, not because you have changed aggressively, but because you have stopped molding yourself to please. And when a man stops shaping himself, he begins to show who he really is. This revelation scares. Authenticity is not common. It causes discomfort. It disturbs appearance-based systems. And so the world reacts, trying to pull back those who dare rise. But the deepest is that you become a spiritual mirror. Not a mirror that shows the exterior, but activates consciousness in others. You enter an environment and, without saying anything, people feel that there is something different. Some feel peace, others feel discomfort. Some want to be close, others want to test you. But in all, something moves. Because your vibration is clean, firm, directed. And this vibration is shocked by everything that is disorganized, scattered, or unclean. You have become a revealing presence. And so the world reacts. Being this presence is not easy. It requires firmness, patience, and vision. You will notice doors closing, people moving away, looks changing. But you will also notice a new kind of way opening. The connections that arrive now have another frequency. The environments that welcome you have another vibration. The world reacts, yes, but it also reorganizes around its new energy. Because when a man changes his frequency, everything around needs to reposition himself. And this is not punishment, it is confirmation. You have become a watershed, and deep waters do not mix with the shallow. Staying untouchable is not a magical state that is achieved once and ready. It is a daily, silent, and demanding construction. Being a man in retention in a world that revolves around indulgence is a revolutionary act, and every revolution requires discipline. But not that discipline displayed on social networks or sold in quick formulas. It is an invisible discipline, habits that no one sees, choices made in the silence of the mind, small renunciations that keep its frequency high. Sleep early. Say no to what most say yes. Do not justify your own integrity. It is in this invisible that your strength lives. To remain high, you need to protect your energy as a warrior protects your temple. And this armor is not only spiritual, it is physical, mental, emotional, and vibrational. What you eat interferes directly at your frequency. Heavy industrialized foods, loaded with artificial stimuli, drown out spiritual sensitivity. Environments also speak. Chaotic, noisy places, energetically dirty, drain their strength. People have vibration. Some raise, others pull down with empty conversations, malicious glances, camouflaged intentions. Its mission is to become sensitive enough to realize and strong enough to refuse. Temptations do not disappear with retention. In fact, they refine. The provocations become more subtle. The most sophisticated spiritual sabotage. What once overthrew you easily now is disguised as an opportunity, affection, necessity. Therefore, it is necessary to be awake all the time. Not in paranoia, but in discernment. Temptation knows where you are weak, and it always presents itself as something normal, acceptable, human. Wisdom is to see beyond form, in asking, does this raise or distract me? Does this bring me closer to my purpose, or drag me into the cycle? It is this lucidity that protects you. In a world where everything invites you to get lost, staying in alignment is a sacred act. But this is only possible when you understand that your frequency is mission. You are not keeping yourself out of pride or vanity. You keep yourself because you know that it carries something that cannot be wasted. You understand that your energy is not a bargaining chip for affection or momentary pleasure. It is the fuel of your mission. And mission requires clarity, strength, and preservation. Therefore, you need to learn to say no firmly, to lightly move away, to choose with maturity. The world will try to break you by temptations for the pressures, the disguised invitations. It will use people, images, memories, all desires. But if you remember who you are and what is being built within you, none of this will have enough strength. Because the man who keeps himself becomes a pillar. And pillars do not bend with the wind. They support structures. And that is what you are becoming, a spiritual structure, a living temple, a reference of silent force. And as long as you stay firm, nothing and no one will be able to touch you. Because the true untouchability is not in the body, it is in the vibration. And his vibration is now someone who has returned to himself and decided not to leave. There is a point in the journey of man in retention in which he understands. This is not just about control, it is about consecration. The energy that was previously associated with instinct becomes a concentrated spiritual force. And this strength, when well targeted, begins to feed areas of life that were previously stunted: intuition, courage, faith, long-term vision. Chastity is no longer a burden and reveals itself as a portal, an elevation channel. The pleasure of the body gives way to the pleasure of the spirit. And the man who once sought orgasms now seeks transcendence. This transmutation does not happen by chance. It requires crossing the desert. The body cries, The mind sabots. The world offers shortcuts. But the spirit, when we insist, begins to wake up, and with him, gifts that were dormant. Spiritual chastity activates a perception beyond the ordinary. You begin to feel what is behind words, intentions, environments. You know when something is clean or contaminated. You know who speaks with soul and who repeats without essence. Its spiritual sensitivity expands, and with it, a kind of power is born that cannot be taught, just accessed. This power manifests itself in simple attitudes. Your speech becomes more accurate, your firm decisions, your straightest posture, your most striking presence. You don't have to assert yourself. Your body already speaks. Your energy comes before you. And when you speak, there is weight. People listen to you another way, because there is a frequency behind the voice. There is chastity behind the presence. And spiritual chastity is perceived in the invisible world, and also in the visible. Your countenance changes. Your touch changes. Your gaze conveys something else. You are no longer fragmented. It's whole. The spirit world also responds. Doors that were once closed begin to open, not because you forced it, but because you have become compatible with them. There are ways that only open to those who carry a preserved vibration. Chastity tuns you with the upper plane, and the signs begin to appear. Stronger intuitions, revealing dreams, unlikely encounters, silent deliverances. You feel that you are being guided, because it is. Chastity becomes bridge, and the bridge takes where pleasure never took. But it takes vigilance, always. The enemy does not come with an enemy face. It comes with what you still want, but you think you overcome.